Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Saturday, August 28th, 2021. Welcome everyone who's tuning in right now. We are watching several things right now. The breaking news is with the space weather, and then we will also catch you up to speed on what's going on with Hurricane Ida as well. But first, let's take a look at our space weather stats right now. We are looking at solar wind speeds at a 372 kilometers, 0.2, but the density is low at a 2.9. We have 4 sunspots to speak of right now. It is 2859, 2860, 2851, and 2862. That is a combination of sunspot number 33. That's a pretty big sunspot number for 4 regions. This is probably one of the bigger sunspots when we're talking about 2860. And this is where we are getting the solar flare warning right now. That's right. We are, right now, they are issuing a major flare warning. Sunspot AR 2860 is big, angry, and it's directly facing Earth. The active region just unleashed a significant M 4.7 class solar flare on August 28th at 6:11 UT, probably hurling a CME towards Earth. If current trends continue, a major X flare could be in the offing, so stay tuned. Again, this is just a warning, an alert. It is not imminent, it is not for sure, but it is something to watch as we are discussing the last few days how we had the solar tsunami, and now the solar tsunami came from AR 2859, which is a sunspot that is now Earth facing. So that is where the solar tsunami originated from yesterday. What we're looking at today is from AR 2860, and let's go over to SPACEWEATHER.com, and I'll go ahead and zoom in, folks, to take a look and look at how big 2860 is right now. So this is the sunspot that they are warning us to be aware of, a possibility of a major X flare. It is Earth facing, and they are concerned because of what these people are seeing as far as trends on this particular sunspot. It has grown quite a bit in the last 3 days. Very impressed by this sunspot. I've been following this seriously for the past 5 years, dedicated my life of checking this kind of stuff every day, and I've never seen a warning for any kind of solar flare, X, M, whatever. And I've never seen a sunspot grow as fast as 2860. So, folks, I'm not trying to peddle that the end of the world is here. I'm saying this is a warning, and we know what happens on X flares, Earth facing, depending on what side of the Earth gets it. This could be something that could hurt our grid system. So the concern is now, are people going to be rushing to the store? I'm not suggesting that, but I am passing along the information here at SPACEWEATHER.com that they are issuing a major flare warning for AR 2860. And this is as of today, 6:11 UT time. Well, here is a movie of the solar tsunami that happened the other day. And so, like I said, we're witnessing multiple things here with the sun. There's your solar tsunami, the cloud that you see. It's after this explosion. It's the cloud. That's what the solar tsunami is. And that has caused a G1 storm. We had a surprise KP indice of a 5 in the last 24 hours. So we have already experienced this solar tsunami. It impacted Earth with the solar storm. Very brief, very little. Not only that, but solar radio bursts. Guys, I'm only going to play this because you can hear the intensity of the static during this event on August 26th. Let's check this out real quick. So you hear this. That's the impact of highly charged particles on the ionosphere. Dies down a little bit. And then listen to this. Comes back. Folks, and you know, a weakened magnetosphere doesn't help either. So this is the radio, you hear the crackling, the popping noise. That's also displaying the intensity. Fast forward towards the end here, it gets even worse here at the 145 mark. Much more quick burst here. There, that noise. That's an extreme overload there, and that's how. And again, this was minor. This was G1 stuff, folks. We talked about this yesterday. You know how minor G1 is. So that's the effect from a G1 type situation. Your radio waves are going to get interference, like the static that we just heard there. But what they're warning us about here is a little bit different. If it is Earth facing, and this sunspot 2860 is possibly capable of producing an X-class flare, then we need to kind of take preparation here, folks. And what I mean by that is maybe if you have a homemade Faraday cage, it's time to put some things in there that you value and don't want this to, you know, impact your, you know, electronics and all that stuff. Look, folks, it is what it is. This is a warning here, okay? So I'm going to prepare, and I think most of us should do the same as well. So if you have Faraday cages, this is the best time to put these to use. Right now, they didn't say how long we're talking about this warning is. The sunspot could turn away within the next 24 to 36 hours, and then we're out of the woods. But right now, this is kind of what we have been put on this channel to do. And our job is to inform people when things are getting ready to happen. And when you see a major flare warning being issued by SPACEWEATHER.com and those at NOAA as well, I think it's time that we exercise some of these things that we've been prepping for what? For the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years? It's time to put that prep into use. Do you have a plan? Do you have a plan? And folks that live in the Gulf Coast right now, not only are we dealing with this possibility of space weather affecting the grid, who knows what else, but we are dealing with a major hurricane that has just been upgraded, that they expect this to be a Category 4 upon landfall. Now, this storm was predicted at first to be a Category 3 to begin with at landfall, so this is not a crazy uptick, but this is showing that this storm will continue to strengthen as it moves in towards the Gulf Coast. And right now we are watching, of course, New Orleans, where there are multiple hurricane warnings. The evacuation orders, unfortunately, they cannot mandate this right now. And the reason why is because they don't have the resources to effectively evacuate everyone. So there's not a mandatory evacuation going on. But you see where the area of concern is from Ida, and that is the areas of New Orleans, obviously under sea level. A 7 to 11 feet surge is expected. And then when you get more out to, I think that's Horgan City, between that and the mouth of the Mississippi River, we're expecting somewhere between 10 and 15 feet of storm surge. Speaking of that, yes, we could see flooding along the Mississippi from this storm as the storm pushes inland, pushing the water also north. Could be now, I'm not saying it will, but we could see a huge mess from this particular system. With the Category 4, this is life-threatening storm. This is property damage likely. If you haven't already evacuated this area, we need to find you shelter somewhere secure, and make sure you have plenty of food and water for the next several days, because a Category 4 hurricane making landfall out here. And folks, the South has been drenched all summer long We have seen a line of storm after storm after storm. No major tornado outbreaks, but the South is definitely saturated in some spots. Louisiana has seen heavier precipitation this year as well. So we are going to see, on top of flooding here, but down trees because of the winds, the soil's already saturated. We could be expecting power outages in the millions, if not higher, from this particular system. Let's continue to move on here. I have other maps that I will show you what we're expecting with this storm. Here's the rainfall potential. Right now, this storm could drop close to 20 inches of rain near New Orleans, near Lake Pontchartrain, which those areas are always troubled and strained when it comes to hurricanes, the pumping, the levees, all that stuff. So there's going to be concerns with that as well. 15 to 20 inches of rain is possible on top of 7 to 11 feet of storm surge in New Orleans. Same thing on the Gulf Coast, where I was just showing you guys earlier, from Horton City all the way to the mouth of the Mississippi. There also could be that potential of 15 to 20 inches of rainfall and a storm surge of 10 to 15 feet. So this is catastrophic, dangerous situation developing here in the Gulf of Mexico. Hurricane Ida continues to barrel ahead. We'll give you an accurate full update here just in a second on its stats. But I'm just going over on some of the maps here to show us the potential for flooding. Obviously is going to be high for anywhere from Lake Charles, New Orleans, all the way to the areas of the Gulf Coast. Still pretty high, moderate chances for you if you live in Jackson, Mississippi. And like I said, it's already saturated, so put that in with the wind. Power outages are also likely in these areas that we see highlighted as well, and we will keep track of that as well. Let's go back out here to Mike's Hurricane Center here and get a quick update here on the tropics. Let's get the stats right now. We are looking at Ida with a pressure sustained at 976 millibars. It is moving. Maximum sustained winds actually are 100 miles per hour right now as we speak. It is still moving northwest at 16 miles per hour. Now, this storm, the further it moves to the northwest, will break away from what light wind shear there is on the south side of this storm right now. So the further away from Cuba it goes, the more it's going to continue to strengthen. And on top of that, not just the fact that this wind shear here in the south is light and will be pretty much out of the storm's way, but the waters right here where I've got the arrow at, this is where the waters are the warmest in the Gulf right now, 85, 90 degrees in that range. Folks, that's bath water. So right before landfall, Ida should strengthen all the way to landfall. And I think that's why they're now throwing the urge of a Category 4, not just a Category 3. But we do know how mainstream media gets. They like to overhype sometimes. I heard so many times that Hurricane Henri was going to be a benchmark hurricane. And it was impressive. It did pack a lot of rainfall for southern New York, but it was nowhere near benchmark material. This storm, however, that looks a little bit different. We are seeing a very strong eye in this storm. It has all the ingredients it needs right now to develop and continue to stay strong. Let's go ahead and take a look at a live look. I know we already have it on the screen there in your left-hand corner, but just to kind of give you an idea of what we are dealing with, what size storm we are. And the outer bands are already making its way towards the Louisiana coast here in the Gulf. So already seeing that outer bands reaching storm surge. I'm sure the waves are crashing as we speak. Landfall is expected. Well, let's go ahead and check that as well. When is landfall expected on this storm? I think we're talking sometime Sunday early at the moment. Let's get that precise forecast here for you. So right now, actually early Sunday, it'll be approaching. So now they are calling the storm to be at a 7 p.m. landfall, somewhere in that category. So between 4 and 8 o'clock p.m. on Sunday is expected landfall. And this storm could still be a tropical depression by Tuesday morning for northern Mississippi. Western Tennessee, the Memphis area needs to be on alert for heavy rain. some gusty winds, nothing like what we're seeing right now. Again, wind speeds are moving right around 100 miles per hour. Those are maximum sustained winds at this time. Again, we are watching several things. We have, not only are we watching Ida, but there is more action developing out here in the tropics as well. The Middle Atlantic, this one doesn't seem to be too concerning. It's kind of taking the same track that Henri was going to take in the first place, a straight north to the northeast. This one right here, we are watching Tropical Depression 10. Right now, the sustaining winds on that is 35 miles per hour with the central pressure of 1,007 millibars, and it is currently moving north at 8 miles per hour. So we've got two more potential systems here in the Middle Atlantic, and then, of course, another wave off of the coast of Africa. Folks, it's September, or it's almost September. It's late August, but this is the time of the year that we start to see the hurricanes start to get active out here. And Ida is going to be the first major hurricane landfall, not only just major hurricane landfall, but the first hurricane Cat 1 or higher landfall for the year. So impressive intensity, I think, right now from Ida, and people are alerted right now to up these alerts and warnings to a Cat 4. Through Wednesday p.m., this is what we can expect. Flooding, rainfall, coastal, and storm damage storm surge damage is possible from this as well, along with damaging winds, road closures, disruptions to energy and commerce sectors. So I really am throwing caution to the power outages. These could be huge, but there is your path right there, folks. 7 p.m., Cat 4, landfall, the first of the year, the first major hurricane to form, and the first landfall that is actually a hurricane in the first place. Now, the good news about, if there is any good news on this storm, it continued to trend a little bit more west of New Orleans than the original forecast. And the good news with that is usually the worst part of this is right around the northeastern part of these storms. And now New Orleans is kind of getting settled in the far northeastern part of it. So it's going to be a little bit less intense, but still expecting 7 to 11 feet storm surge. We're still expecting 8 to 10 inches of rain. That's a recipe for disaster for people out there in New Orleans and areas that are below sea level. But the storm did track a little bit further to the west than it expected. Now, we first talked about this storm about a week ago, and this thing was looking like it was heading for southern Texas, and there was another storm on its heels. Well, that track severely shifted to the east, and we've adjusted it slightly to the west since then. So is there something else following? Because when we reported on this hurricane at first, we saw two storms that were possibly coming in and affecting the same region, both in southern Texas. That's not going to happen. Obviously, this hurricane is going to affect New Orleans, majority of it anyway. So let's take a look here. GFS does expect it to make its landfall. 966 looks like to be the pressure right as it makes landfall. That's pretty low. Category 4, this is going to be strong winds, hurricane-like winds. We're going to see some pretty bad damage here off the coast of Louisiana. Now, interesting to see here. Let me zoom this in. This is the idea here for GFS forecast. And GFS has this storm a little bit further to the east than what we were just looking at. So interesting to see. We'll have to just keep our eyes on this on the exact, because look, if this storm makes landfall like here, then New Orleans is still in play for a really bad scenario of flooding again in that area, especially with a pressure of 974 and it's on landfall. And you see how tight those rings are, all that wind on this northeast side. So this is definitely going to be a storm that we're going to have to watch until the end. Definitely something we will be covering tomorrow, as well as this storm continues to make its approach on landfall. It is still in the middle of the Gulf, and right now it is expected to intensify big time here in the next 24 hours. So let's take a look and see. We were talking about if we were going to have a storm that was going to follow this one. And let's take a look. I've heard people try to, I've heard the word Harvey floated out there, and it reminds me when we had Irma right after Harvey. Harvey was a traditional hurricane like this. Irma, or was it Iris? I get the eyes mixed up, but Irma came in here on the western side of Florida, and it was more oval shaped. It wasn't a circular motion like this one. It was more oval shaped. So is it possible we see a repeat of something like that? Well, take a look at this. So here's Ida making its landfall, and nothing really significant happening in the tropics or in the Gulf. This is September 2nd. And then here's a system that is creeping in right here around the 3rd, 4th of September. Okay? Keep an eye on this region right here. Watch this. This is interesting. This is a little bit far out, but still. Take a look at what we see. Tropical moisture coming into the Gulf from the west of Florida, almost to like a south to north type feature here, folks. So nothing organized, but still curious to see if that gets a little bit more organized. Let's go backwards real quick. This is for the week of September 7th, I believe. So this is going to be next week, Monday, September 6th. It'll be interesting to watch this particular system right here. Does it organize better? And could we see a repeat of Harvey, Irma, and Sep? It's going to be Ida, and I don't know what the next one's going to be, actually, after Ida. Maury, do you know the next storm name after Ida?
I haven't been paying attention.
Well, shame on us. So just something interesting, but the GFS models are not showing the second storm following Ida as strong as it was a week ago. So that's some good news, right? But we are going to watch another system develop here in the Gulf by the 12th of September, and that is on a Sunday. And it starts off here in the Mexico Gulf, off the coast of Mexico, and then continues to develop. And this is showing us a strong signal that this might be the next big storm that we have to track, folks. And I'll tell you what, if this storm is real, if this holds together here in the next 5 to 6 days, and this continues to develop the way it's developing, this is not a good area for the folks of Louisiana. Right now at this point in time. We have another storm on our doorstep in less than 2 weeks if this forecast can hold up. So again, I can't stress enough that this is August, September. This is where we see the peak of all of our major hurricanes especially. Okay, the ingredients are here. And look, we are heading towards what looks like to be another La Nina. And usually with La Nina, we have lighter wind shear, which allows these storms to become rapidly developed and strong like we're seeing right now with Ida. Now, earlier in the beginning of the hurricane season, temperatures in the El Nino region were above baseline. So it did provide a little bit more strength when it came to wind shear. And I think that's why we saw such a slow start to hurricane. Yet we've had a lot of named storms, I get that, but we haven't had a lot of effects from these storms yet. And I believe it's because we were still dealing with wind shear that could have been a little bit stronger versus what it is right now. And it's allowed Ida to become a very strong and dangerous hurricane over the next 24 hours, and potentially here off the coast of Mexico and Texas and Louisiana also could see another giant storm system develop just right after Ida. I need to take a breath for a minute. Matt Bros, Knife Collector, thank you guys for showing up. Mari, being my backup. A little bit excited. David Birch from the UK, glad you could join us. Just a lot going on right now, folks. And please bear with me, I'm doing this live. I've never seen the combination of between space weather and a hurricane so close together like this right now. Well, yeah, Dorian. Maury just brought up a really good point. So let's hope that this storm does not have that capability of staying in place and dumping more than 15 to 20. Now, this forecast on the rainfall could change. It could change. Cosmic radiation rates. Let's check that out real quick here at Space Weather. 8.8%. That's high. They've dropped. They were the 10.9% rate about a week and a half ago. But folks, it makes me wonder. We talk about when is this Terminator event going to happen? Because we're supposed to witness a gigantic uptick in the sun as far as activity. And what if we just don't really know exactly what a Terminator event is? And it's happened. And that's why we're seeing this uptick. Is it possible? The explosion of sunspot growth here in the last 24 hours is impressive. It's been the fastest I've seen, I think, since solar cycle 25. And then you factor in an X-flare warning. And we had a solar tsunami the day before. So this is a time of concern because we have a weaker magnetosphere right now. We have just come out of a really deep solar minimum, and we're not up to full shields, as they say in Star Trek. So shields are weak. And right now, this is the time to be alert. When you have SPACEWEATHER.com issuing a X-flare warning, folks, I'm not saying go into the store and panic buy it. If you follow this channel, most of you are already prepped. Most of you have weather radio. Most of you have batteries. Most of you have flashlights and candles and food that you can store without refrigeration. Most of you are already prepped for something like this to happen. If this X-class flare does happen, they're not guaranteeing it. But if it happens, most of you who follow this type of stuff, you're ready. But again, for those of you who may not be ready, let's not panic buy either. Let's be rational about this. If you do have a Faraday cage, it may not be a bad idea, folks, to put your stuff in a Faraday cage for the next 24 or 48 hours until we see otherwise from SPACEWEATHER.com. What does that do? Well, let's just say we get this X-class flare, and our Faraday cage protects what we put in it. Even though the grid's down and nothing's on, you've saved your electronics from being fried. So if we do get grid repairs in the near future, what electronic devices that you have saved will be able to be used again in the future. I know it sounds silly, but you never know. If a grid goes down, God forbid, but if it does, you never know. You might have to barter your electronics that aren't fried because they're going to be worth a fortune in the future. How many people are going to be aware enough to protect their things right now? So, again, not trying to spread panic or fear or anything like that, but when you have a warning such as what we're seeing right here on SPACEWEATHER.com, major flare warning, I felt it was necessary to announce this. We have to spread this out, share this video. Folks that follow this topic will understand this is nothing to be too panicky about. This is just an alert, but enough to where they have to make it public. I would heed the warning if I were all of you. Folks, we're going to jump offline for a little bit. If we get any more information or breaking news on this situation, we will be back live. Mari and I do plan to set up a live broadcast tomorrow covering the hurricane, especially as we get into the 7 o'clock hour. We will definitely be on the air between 6 and 7 because we're going to be monitoring how big or how small this storm. If the storm does dissipate somehow, we'll come on the air and announce it at least to let you guys know, nothing to worry about. But right now, all eyes are on the sun and all eyes are on Ida. So with that being said, thank you for tuning into the Grand Solar Minimum channel, and we will talk very soon, folks. Take care.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.